Here is my review of the recent debate I had yesterday on the Crucible. You can go ahead and watch it if you want, but I'm going to do a review and what I thought about the debate and my opponent. So let's get into it. The fact that science works incredibly well and has enabled us to understand the origin of life, natural selection, consciousness, and the cosmos to a sufficient enough degree to render a Christian God unnecessary and even contradictory to the state of affairs of the entire observable universe is why I think atheism is exceedingly more likely over Christianity. So my opening statement had 4 arguments. It had the problem of evil, divine hiddenness, biblical contradictions, and the ethical contradictions in Christianity. They were outlined very clearly, I think, and I was expecting to have them being refuted by Jim Bob. But that's not what happened.
My opponent will make knowledge impossible because his view can't account for the mind. Now, he said, I don't believe in anything until I have evidence. There's no evidence of this mind that's independent of causes that makes evaluations and comes to truth.
So Jim Bob avoided any attempt to trying to refute my arguments at all. And all he did was try to attack this idea that determinism can't yield truth. He just asserts this, and he thinks it's an argument. And you'll see throughout the entire debate, that's all he does, is assert this statement that determinism can't yield truth. Keep watching.
We'll start with Mike. Go ahead.
Great. Yeah. So, Jim Bob, you said that I cannot know truth. I think your position is that I cannot come to truth in a deterministic world. Is that correct?
It's worse than that. There's no I.
When you say something's impossible, right, that implies that there's a contradiction. So what exactly is the contradiction in a determined world where there's truth that is itself determined?
You're assuming truth. There's a truth that's accessible. What is this truth you're referring to in the statement?
Yeah, good question. Truth is merely descriptive, right? It's just a language you use to describe reality, right? So again, what's the contradiction in a descriptive theory of truth in which
contradictions themselves aren't even possible under your view?
I'm putting on your worldview for a second, right? I'm saying, okay, great, God exists, we can get logic. Now go ahead and point out the contradiction in a universe where the truth is determined.
Because you making a description of reality is merely an epiphenomenal effect of previous causes under your own view.
Yeah, where's the contradiction there?
You don't have access to contradictions because when you make a statement, all you're doing, it's no different than like farting, passing gas, or something just happening in the world, right?
So I asked him if he thinks it's impossible that I can't come to truth under determinism. Where's the impossibility? In other words, where's the contradiction? Which means a negation and an affirmation of the same proposition, right? A car is yellow and the car is not yellow. That's a contradiction. That's an impossibility. So could he derive an impossibility from determinism and truth? No, he couldn't. He couldn't answer.
That truth is possible.
Dude, stop deflecting this, right? I'm going to ask you one more time. Where is the contradiction in a universe that is determined to yield truth under your view?
The contradiction is premise 1, truth exists. Premise 2, you have no methodology for acquiring truth.
Wait, do you know what a contradiction is, Jim Bob?
Where A doesn't equal A. The entailment is a contradiction.
No, P and not P, right? That's the point. You're assuming a position and negating at the same time. That's a contradiction.
Does truth need to exist?
And this is really sad that you don't understand what a contradiction is.
Saying sad, shut up, sad bullshit. Your emotional bullshit's not going to happen. It works on TikTok, but not here. Listen, buddy. When you say truth exists,
how am I emotional
listen to me.
Jim Bob doesn't know what a contradiction is. A does not equal A is only a non-identity error. It's not a contradiction. A contradiction entails negating and affirming the same proposition. This would render an impossibility. And not only did I provide Jim Bob with a valid explanation as how we can get truth under determinism, but he couldn't even explain why it was impossible. He couldn't even defend his own assertion. And he just kept asserting it over and over and over throughout the entire debate. Hey, Jim Bob, does God know truth?
God is truth.
Okay, God is truth, correct. Okay. So when it comes to God, can God choose to not know truth?
What? No, God The truth isn't separate from God. So your question assumes that there's a separation.
Oh, so God is determined to know the truth.
Determined? No, that's a category error.
So does God freely choose the truth, or is he truth?
God's non-dependent from my view. So you're not doing a steel man. Giggle away.
That doesn't matter, right? Look,
yeah, it does. Of course it matters.
Okay, I know you.
It doesn't matter if I'm accurately critiquing your view. It should just be my view about your view. Get the fuck out of here.
Okay, calm down. So another ridiculous absurdity that Jim Bob has here is, hey Jim Bob, does God know the future? The truth of the future?
Sure.
Oh, so the truth is predetermined.
No, you can have secondary causality
because it already happened. The truth is there. We're just predetermined to get there.
No, that's a big jump.
If God can't choose to know something, then he's determined to know it. That's the only other possibility. It's either determined or not determined. If God's nature is truth, then that means that he only knows things to be true because of his nature. He's determined to know things because of his nature. So even under Jim Bob's view, you can still have determined truth.
Listen, do you agree that a calculator can be determined to produce truth?
Yes, and falsities and gibberish.
There you go. You just conceded that deterministic mechanisms can yield truth again.
Not independent of mind.
Great. So you conceded. Let's move on. Thank you. Let's move on now to my other arguments that I prepared for.
So here, Jim Bob concedes that deterministic systems can yield truth. He conceded. That was a literal concession, and the rest of his argumentation after this was just blatantly dishonest.
Can I freely choose to know what happens inside of a black hole?
What's a black hole?
Wow, you don't know what a black hole is?
Do you have access to a black hole?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
No, you don't. A hypothetical that no one has access to.
Yes,
congratulations, everyone.
Jim, we have observed black holes, by the way.
Do you have access to a black hole?
Yes, we have observed them.
Do you? Not we. Who's this we shit? Have you?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
The answer's no.
Can we freely choose to know what happens inside of a black hole?
I just reject the premise. Choose another example.
Why?
Because I have no reason you could have any knowledge of what you call a black hole. Okay, use another example.
There would have to be a series of causes and effects that would lead me to that knowledge, correct?
Mm-hmm. Cause and effect to lead you to knowledge?
Yeah, I would have to go use a telescope, do all this causes and effects. There's deterministic
knowledge in your
truth, right?
I showed that knowledge isn't freely chosen. I can't just freely choose to know about calculus. I can't just freely choose to know about what happens inside of a black hole. I can't just freely choose to know things. Knowledge is something that I have to go through a series of causes and effects to get to. In order for me to know something about reality, I have to go through a series of causes and effects that stimulate my brain to produce a certain neural firings to yield certain descriptions of reality. And how do we verify those? By ever sharpening our descriptions of reality through observations and analysis and things like that we are determined to undergo, of course. But the point is that we can still verify things to be true under determinism just fine. It's a complex deterministic system, of course. Of course, the universe is complex. Yeah, congratulations. But it doesn't mean it's false. Just because Jim Bob doesn't understand the neuroscience behind our minds or brains doesn't mean that it can't be the case. This is an argument from incredulity, and that's a fallacy. It's not an argument against deterministic truth.
Mike here said the laws of logic are produced by the human brains or other brains now, he included, right? So I asked him, if evolution is true, then there's a whole swath of other organisms that don't have the developed capacity to configure the laws of thought in a material way, as he described it. And for them to exist, the laws of logic must hold true that A is A, the law of identity holds, that there's an external world the animal or the organism can interact with, get its nutrients, find its things, procreate. All of these things are preceding Mike's view of the laws of logic, which demonstrates that the laws of logic precede the human mind, precede the human brain in his own view. Contradiction. Get out of here.
No,
you're out of here.
Wrong. That's not a contradiction.
Oh, which part was wrong? None.
Let
Zero.
me respond.
Hang on, let him respond, Jim Bob. Let him respond.
No.
You're so dishonest. Okay?
Yes, Jim Bob. Yes.
So again, I just explained to you that logic is mind dependent. It doesn't exist. It doesn't have any ontological status beyond our minds, such that you're confusing the map of the territory. You're saying, well, logic has to exist outside, beyond the minds in order to exist. Well, no, it doesn't. Logic can be purely mind dependent. And yes, if there were no minds, there would be no logic, because the universe doesn't care about logic. It's not prescriptive to the universe.
Is there a
Logic
beginning
is-
of the
hold on.
universe?
Logic is descriptive to the universe, which is mind dependent, period.
And the universe doesn't wait for logic and then go, when's logic coming? Let me follow logic. No, the universe doesn't care about logic. The universe just exists. Our minds is what produces logic, and which then describes what we think reality is. The true ontology of the universe is not epistemically accessible to us as mere subjects. We aren't absolute, right? We are just subjects in a universe. We don't know the absolute ontology of it, and probably never will. So here, Jim Bob is confusing the map for the territory. He doesn't understand this concept, which I still think he doesn't grasp.
A equals A. That is a definitional statement. They are defined the same. It means
Yep.
it's an absolute statement, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Now that's absolute statement. Can that be produced in my mind?
Produced? No, apprehended. We just have different terms in the methodology. dude.
Okay. Why can't I produce in my brain an absolute statement?
Because if what you're calling production is a material method, then someone else can produce not that, and you wouldn't have an argument against them producing whatever their description is. A doesn't equal. Guess what? There's a bunch of people.
I know that.
Dude,
Sure.
there's a
Jim,
bunch of people
you
running
know.
around saying they're a woman when they're descriptively not a woman.
Again, woman's gender. Gender is not the same as sex. They're different.
Is A equals A?
Oh,
Okay, hang on, stop. Hang on.
No, it
Before we
doesn't.
hang on, before we derail into that conversation, I know you guys both have differing views on it, but it's not pertinent to this particular argument. The debate that we've run out of time. We do need to get into closing statements.
So, to summarize this debate, I gave 4 solid arguments against Christianity. He avoided all 4 and then proceeded to just attack me on this position that he asserts. He asserted I can't have knowledge. Then I asked him, why can't I have knowledge? And he just didn't give a contradiction. He didn't show me why it's impossible. And then he asserts the same thing over and over again, on the way, question begging, straw manning everything I'm saying, not even able to recognize that he conceded that determinism can yield truth without ever defending his view. And then at the very end, he throws out an insult against trans people, which I then corrected him on. A very ignorant and unworthy opponent who failed at literally everything during the debate. But this is where things get vile and nasty. While I was debating, I was looking at the comment section. It was full insults on me. Everybody was attacking me, insulting me in the comment section. Now, I'm not going to cry about it. That I understand that that's their platform, but some of the stuff that people were saying was absolutely disgusting. And I don't know why the moderator never said anything about it, but he should have. But anyway, mind you, I was not prepared to be bombarded by questions for an hour and a half. I pulled through it, even through all the dishonesty.
But other than that, we'll get to Mendoza. Welcome. Go ahead whenever
These
you're ready.
two.
Brother, you actually took the challenge. I commend you.
So this guy, he asked to debate me. But I immediately accepted on TikTok, which the video is on my channel. I immediately accepted, yes, I'll debate you. But he was too scared to debate me. So what does he do? He calls his friend Jim Bob, which I didn't even know I was going to debate Jim Bob. They just threw me a random person. I accepted. I didn't budge. But then Jim Bob, after he fails miserably at the debate, that same guy who asked me to debate in the first place comes on as a caller, as a questioner, and dishonestly records a random snippet of me in some random context, which in itself was out of context because I was not talking about objective truth or analytical statements. I was talking about moral statements, which are not objectively true.
Your position is more parsimonious if your position assumes that there is no correct position.
Because your position assumes there is a correct position and mine concedes there is no.
So even yours, right? Including yours? There is no objectively correct. There is no objectively correct. Including your position, right? Yes. Have a great drinking day, dude. That's the end of your position, dude. You yourself conceded that there is no objectively correct position, including your position. So
Yeah, nice try.
So
But that
you're
was-
done.
that was-
That's the
no,
end
no,
of your
no, no.
position. You
Listen.
yourself,
Listen,
your
this is very
presuppositions
dishonest.
contain the seeds
Okay,
of
Mendoza, let him
self-destruction.
respond. Let him respond, and then we got to move on. We got to move on.
If you
Thank you,
If you
Mendoza.
actually watch the context of that, we were talking about morality, not analytical truths. We were talking about moral statements, which I concede are not objectively correct because morality is not objective; it is subjective. But true statements about the universe can be objective, depending on if they're analytical or not. So that was a very dishonest thing to say.
So he thinks he has a gotcha, while he was too ignorant to recognize that moral statements are not analytical statements or synthetic statements. So moral statements are treated differently than those things, which means that we can say that moral statements could be objective or subjective while holding that other statements are objective analytically. So that was a utter fail again.
Welcome.
Hey,
Welcome. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
so Mike, you said there's no ontology to logic.
No, there is. It's in the mind.
Go down. You said that logic, ontologically, is just a product of the brain. So logic, to me, logic is sticky notes.
What do you mean? That doesn't make any sense.
I
Logic is
agree.
not-
This is the result. It's a reductio ad absurdum of your view.
This caller was strawmanning me the entire time as well, just trying to bombard me with nonsense, throwing poop at the wall to see what sticks. No, I wouldn't say logic is a piece of paper under my view. That's not what I would ever say, because that would be false, right? Logic is a systematic language. Paper is just a piece of paper, right? There's no ability for paper to produce logic in any empirical sense.
I just think it's funny that the child cries about being dishonest and interrupting, and then he interrupts. But so again, you're appealing to when you say matter. How can I not account for matter? The word matter, you're using that word to point as a referent to point out an ontological idea, but you can't account for ontology, and you've negated having access to any. I'm talking, Mike. I'm talking. You can't account for these things. You've even admitted
I can.
it.
It's through the mind. If they comport to reality or
And
not,
how do you know what comports to reality?
by observing it,
Using logic.
using my brain, yes, and my logic.
And logic has
my
no
ability to
ontological
observe.
status.
It would be a straw man to say that I think there's no ontology outside the brain. I never said that, and this is complete straw man. No, I clearly think that there is a external world outside of my mind. But the point is that it's all physical, right? The entire universe is a physical thing, and under that paradigm, you can have a mind be physical and objects in the universe be physical, and these physical minds describe other physical things. That's a perfectly compatible system. I don't need God for that. I don't need something metaphysical or immaterial, or it doesn't matter. And we verify things through repeated observation, testing, and comparative analysis. There you go. Nice try, but you didn't actually do anything.
Andrew, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Mike, how would you do a comparative analysis to this statement? I want to do what's good. What would be the comparative
What do you mean?
analysis from your brain
Versus
to tell
what?
me what is
Making
good?
sense.
Yeah, tell me what's good, Mike.
So Andrew, for those of you guys who don't know him, he was recently debating Matt Dillahunty about a month ago. And during the debate, he was being very vile. He was being very transphobic. And rightfully so, Matt left the debate. He walked out. This guy's not a serious debater, and you'll see why.
Good is just what we prefer. That's to me. There's nothing.
Good. So
there's
good is
nothing.
just-
There's no ontology about goodness in the universe.
It's just preference.
Yeah, morality is preference, especially under a Christian view, because God's morality is God's preference.
Yeah,
too.
forget a Christian view. But if it's just preference, my question here is why should we go with your preference?
Well, depending on the consequences, and this is an entire medical ethical discussion, but the point is that we compare whose morality tends to yield better results.
It's just a
And,
preference.
that's all. Yeah.
It's just a preference.
That's-
Well, what do you mean
that's how
results?
morality-
Well, when you
that's
say
how
results,
ethics
what do you
works,
mean
right?
results? Who's right? Who's
Results
standard?
of
Who's
reality.
standard? Who's
Look,
standard?
Look, if I punch you in the face and it hurts you, right? That's
Yeah.
a result that you don't like, right?
Yeah, but I think if you
Great.
punch
So,
me in the face,
hold
I
on,
should be
hold
able to
on,
have sex with
hold
your wife.
on,
Why am I
hold on.
wrong,
Listen,
Mike?
listen.
So he thinks he has a gotcha, Gotcha, Mike. You think morality's preference. Just as I predicted in my opening statement, which he probably didn't even see or care about. So he asked me, why does preference matter? Yeah, no shit, preference doesn't matter objectively, but doesn't actually do anything for you, because the same thing applies to you. Why does your preference matter, right? Like, we can ask the same thing to you, especially to Christians, which I pointed out. He's like, oh, I don't care about that. Just because you think it's crazy to suggest that morality is subjective or preference-based doesn't mean it can't be. Okay, that's not an argument. Then he makes another category error by suggesting that the map is equivalent to the territory. No, there's a difference there.
Question for you, Mike. You said that the laws of logic exist within the mind. They don't exist external to the mind, so these are not discovered. These are things which are innate to a mind
Logic
state.
is what the brain does, yes.
Okay. So if no human beings existed, could a planet be anything other than a planet?
Yeah, that question itself is a logical question, a logical statement you're making.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
a descriptive statement,
Yeah, I
which
know.
in itself is mind dependent. So
Yeah,
again,
no, it's
you're
not
making
mind.
the same,
No, it's not mind dependent.
Yes, it is.
No, in
You're
fact,
making
based
the
into
same
the
mistake.
hypothetical.
You're
Where's
making
the
the same
contradiction, Mike?
mistake.
Mike, where's the
Stop.
contradiction?
The point is that you're
Where's
making
the
a
contradiction, Mike?
You're making a descriptive statement.
Where's
that
the contradiction?
You're making a mind-dependent descriptive statement
Mhm.
that does not need. I'm not saying it's impossible to be
Right.
mind independent, but it doesn't need mind independency.
Okay, yeah, okay. So if there was no minds around, could
Correct.
a planet be something other than a planet?
You're not understanding. I just answered that, but
No,
the
yeah,
fact
no,
that
you didn't
answered
answer
that
it.
dumb question means you don't understand what I just told you.
Yeah,
But if minds didn't exist, it wouldn't mean that the universe suddenly disappeared, and of course not. It means that logic is descriptive. It's just describing reality. It's not prescriptive. There's no logic in the air, or in the atmosphere, or the ether. No, that's something that we use to describe. Logic is just how our brains operate to describe reality. That's perfectly compatible. It's perfectly valid to suggest this. We are mere subjects, and we do not have epistemic access to absolutes about the world. I don't think anybody ever will, but who cares? It's not relevant. We can still come to descriptive truths within a system where logic is merely mind-dependent. That there is an external world that doesn't abide by logic, but just exists, and the absolute ontology of that is unknown until otherwise shown.
Of course, the planet would still
and
exist.
could it be
But-
anything
but
other
the
than what it
logic-
is?
But the
Can it be
ontology-
anything other than what it is?
No, of course the
Okay,
the
then
law
shut up,
doesn't
Mike,
apply.
you fucking idiot. Goodbye, Mike.
Yeah, he's a gross person. So it was overall very embarrassing for these guys. They tried so hard to attack me, even though all their punches missed. They utterly failed at every try. And I will never stop fighting for rationality, reason, and compassion. See you next time.